I really hated the gatherings at the county club every few weeks. It seems like they had a million excuses to justify some sort of frivolous party so that a bunch of rich people could get together and take ego trips. My wife, Sandra, loved to go and seemed to look forward to them. Unfortunately, in the last year or so, she started drinking too much and sometimes ended up embarrassing herself or me. Sandra and I had been married for 24 years. We had 3 children, all in college. I met my wife when I was getting my MBA, and we seemed to hit it off from the start. Things started cooling down between us about 10 years ago, and I assumed it was natural. I would have appreciated a little more affection and a little more intimacy, but hated to push it. I pretty much resigned myself to the fact that the rest of my life would be less than romantic. I had a good job and made good money. In fact, it was great. Putting 3 kids through college took a big chunk out of the budget and savings, but we were still well off. Of course, Sandra didn't have to work and didn't want to. Her time was spent doing community work and social activities. My income was necessary to support that. She still looked good for her age. I think a lot of that was a result of many trips to the spa and beauty salon. I was sort of average, a little bulge around the middle and a little gray on the temples. I dressed well because of my job and my wife's love of shopping. I was good at my job, but not really happy. I was ready to try something new, something that I would enjoy, and not have to worry about how much it paid. I also wanted to move somewhere else. The house was way too large for the 2 of us, and I hated the cost and time involved in keeping it up. My wife would not even consider discussing such ridiculous ideas. She wanted her big house, county club, and wealthy friends. At one such gathering, I wandered around the club, joining in little conversations here and there about stupid things. The night was getting old, and I was nursing my last drink for an hour or so. Sandra, on the other hand, was just getting up to steam. It appeared that she had been drinking a little more than usual, and it was showing. 8 or 10 of the local dowagers were sitting together having a cat chat as I walked up. The conversation seemed to be about intimacy. That was my signal to turn the other way. As I turned to exit the room, I heard my wife in a louder than normal voice. "Hell, if it wasn't for Todd Mitchell, I would never have had any good intimacy in my lifetime." The group grew suddenly quiet. Some of the ladies had noticed me standing close by. As if clued by the lack of laughter, Sandra turned and saw me. The excess alcohol was definitely having an effect on her judgment. "Robert, I didn't know you were standing there. You were not supposed to hear that, darling. I'm sorry, my bad." She followed that up with a few drunken giggles like a little girl. The ladies sitting in the immediate area did not know how to react. A few of them walked away quietly, and the rest just sat without talking. Sandra was looking at me with a silly smirk on her face like she just did something mischievous. I placed my glass on a nearby table and slowly left the room and the club. I didn't go home. I went to the airport and 30 minutes later was on a commuter flight to Reno. I liked Reno far better than Las Vegas. My relationship with Sandra now became a lot clearer. I was able to understand things that had eluded me before. A weekend in Reno would help clarify a few more things. I turned my cell phone off. I had no trouble getting a room at one of the casinos. I opened an account for $20,000, and the comp room quickly followed. An interesting thing about the casino accounts: since they are not banks, they are not under federal regulations, and no reports are required to the government. If you win big bucks on a slot or at Keno, it must be reported, but anything you deposit in your account is not traceable. I was not really interested in gambling of any type, but I did like their banking setup. By the time I woke up, it was noon on Saturday. I was analyzing my situation over a burger and fries. I liked Reno. The climate was comfortable because of the high altitude. I had to take a walk down by the Truckee to pay my respects to all the broken marriages. I wasn't planning on a Reno divorce, but I might like to add my ring to the riverbed at a later date. Going back to the hotel, I passed a realtor's office with lots of pictures in the front display window. All of a sudden, a condo in Reno started to make sense. After an hour in the office and 2 hours driving around, I found a small, furnished unit that I really liked. The trouble was I couldn't buy it while I was married. Luckily, I was able to swing a discreet lease-to-buy agreement with a big deposit. The big deposit was my idea, and the seller loved it. One of the best decisions I made early in my marriage was to manage and control the family finances myself. Sandra did not have a knack for figures or banking. She was more than happy to let me pay the bills as long as she could spend the money. I treated myself to a beautiful sushi supper that evening. Before going to bed, I deposited another $10,000 from my Visa card into the casino fund. I hated paying the cash advance fee, but figured in this case, it was worth it. I was up bright and early the next morning and was able to catch breakfast in the casino restaurant. Eggs, bacon, hash browns, and toast hit the spot. I was trying to kill time with my second cup of coffee when I noticed my waitress had a big shiner. She was trying to hide it by combing her hair forward, but it wasn't working. She was a nice-looking girl in her mid-40s. I watched her flit from table to table, doing her best to keep everyone happy. I got the feeling that this was something new to her, because she was trying too hard. An experienced waitress would have been a little smoother and more confident. She seemed determined to do a good job, and I admired that. "Your name tag says Donna. Is that your real name?" "No. My name is Dora, but Donna was the closest tag they had." "Well, Dora, I will have one more cup of coffee, and I promise to leave a big tip if you tell me about the black eye." "Why don't I pour you a refill and you can leave a smaller tip and I'll ignore your question," she replied. "Fair enough. It was rude of me to pry." I already had the key to the condo, so I decided to get a few things to set up housekeeping. The first stop was down the street at the Silver Spur used car lot. I grabbed a Focus sedan with more miles on it than I care to mention. It wouldn't be too good for a long trip, but okay to run around in. I guess I could have rented, but I was planning on coming back on a regular basis for a while. For a couple $100, I was able to get all I needed to live comfortably, including a few changes of clothes. The rest of the day I spent opening accounts at several casinos. I wrote checks made out to the place I was at. The money went into my account and disappeared. No audit trail. By the end of the day, I had deposited $60,000 at 4 different casinos. I got a small spiral notebook I could carry in my pocket and entered the amounts, dates, and casino names. This was a chronological record of the money I lost gambling over the weekend. Of course, I hadn't bet a dime, but who was going to challenge me? Everyone knew I was a lousy poker player, so any losses I had at roulette, craps, or blackjack would be believable. I had 6 months to come up with the down payment for the condo. That should be no problem. I totally forgot about lunch, so by the time supper rolled around, I was starved. The easiest place to go was where I had breakfast. As luck would have it, Dora was my waitress. "Why are you still here? Looks like a long day." "I have to work double shifts to get by. I didn't think rent would be so high here. What would you like to drink?" It was better not to be too nosy. I ordered my meal and tried to be a good boy for the rest of the time. When I finished, she brought my check and stopped for a moment. "I'm sorry for being so short with you this morning. I am having a hard time getting used to being here, and I am a little self-conscious about the eye. It was a parting present from my husband when I told him I was coming here to get a divorce. It's not the first one, but I hope it will be the last. Thanks for the nice tip at breakfast, by the way. It helps." She smiled as she walked away, but it was a sad smile. I thought about her the rest of the night. That night, I concluded that there was not much more I could do right away. I had to get home to take care of a few things before I could set up anything else here. I had no trouble getting a flight lined up for the return trip, but was unsure what I was going to do when I got there. Dora was working the next morning, and I was able to get one of her tables. I stopped her when she dropped off the check. After the meal, I said, "I have a small problem, and I was wondering if you could help me out. I have to leave today and won't be back for a week or so. I need someone to house sit for me. It's a 2-bedroom condo, so you wouldn't have to worry about any living conflicts. Could you possibly help me out? It will be for at least a couple of months." "Are you serious? No strings attached?" she asked. "I hate to leave the place alone. 90% of the time it will be just you, and when I am here, I will stay out of your way. Promise." I really didn't care if somebody broke in and cleaned the place out. There wasn't that much to lose. I couldn't let Dora know that. "Okay. Is it within walking distance of the diner?" she asked. "It is pretty close, but I am leaving you my car also. Make sure it always has gas for when I come back. I will call you ahead of time. There is a machine on the phone." Dora just stood and looked at me. I think she was afraid that it was a setup. I didn't have time to convince her otherwise. "Here is the condo key and the car key. The car is parked at the condo. It is a dark blue Ford Focus. Here is the address for the condo. If you don't feel comfortable about it, don't go. I will pick up the keys when I come back next Friday." I wrote the address on a napkin and handed it to her. She took the napkin and keys and just looked at me. "Dora, don't worry about it. If you do, it's fine. If you decide not to, it's still fine." An hour later, I was on my flight home. I would have rather stayed in Reno. After picking up my car at the long-term lot, I drove by the house. Sandra's car was gone, so I decided to get a few things for the rest of the week. I loaded the car with underwear, clothes, shoes, and my laptop. It took less than 10 minutes. I also got my passport and birth certificate. The company had several kitchenette-type units on consignment. My position authorized me to use one of them as I saw fit. I reserved it for the next 2 weeks. I put the laptop battery on the charger and then called my eldest son, Jason. I told him that his mother and I were having some domestic problems and I would be tied up for a while. I asked him to explain it to his sisters and tell them not to worry. All 3 of them were at Auburn. I got a group discount, but still had to pay out-of-state tuition. At least I could afford it. I hung up, put the cell phone on a charger, and hit the shower. The only thing I got to eat on the plane was a bag of peanuts. I was looking forward to a nice supper. Monday was a busy day. Before doing anything else, I went to the bank and got a second mortgage on the house, a big one. I now owed more on the house than it was worth. By the end of this month, that would change. I contacted Auburn, directly from the bank, and we reached an agreement on prepaid tuition for the kids. The bank wired $240,000 directly to the school. That left me with a cashier's check for just over $200,000 to take to Reno. I cashed in 2 CDs and paid the penalty and closed out the money market account. I decided to leave the credit cards alone until the end of the month. By that time, I was late for work. My faithful secretary was waiting with black coffee and a silly grin. "Good morning, Mr. Terrell. Are you going to tell me about what happened at the county club Friday? Or am I going to have to believe all the rumors?" "Emily, the rumors are all true. Anything else you need to know?" Without blinking an eye, she responded, "What do you want me to do to help?" "Get me everything you can on Todd Mitchell. I think he used to work here, but I am not sure. Arrange to have all my scheduled work done by some of the staff, and don't give them a reason why. Any appointments or meetings I have set up should be shifted also. Any questions so far?" I got a big smile and a thumbs up from Emily as she left the office. I had originally figured it would take me several weeks to arrange my affairs, but now I see that it could all be done in a week. I called my lawyer and arranged an immediate appointment. On the way out, I informed Emily that I was not taking or responding to any phone calls from my wife. Security was not to allow her in the building. Jerry Proctor was a friend of mine from college. We liked each other, but Jerry never did like Sandra. I figured he would be the perfect guy to handle my divorce. "I was at the country club Friday, Robert, so I think I know why you are here." "You are right," I replied. "I am not being a smart ass, Bob, but it is about time." "You are right again. I figured as long as I wasn't being publicly humiliated, I could stand it." That ended Friday. "I need access to all of your accounts and a couple of powers of attorney. I'll have my girl prepare everything and then give you a call. Anything special I should be aware of? He asked. Well, Jerry, I am afraid the trauma of what happened Friday triggered something in me. I find that I have become addicted to gambling. I spent the weekend in Reno and lost thousands and thousands of dollars. I am going back next weekend and I am afraid it will be worse. Gee, good buddy, that is terrible. I assume you are keeping some kind of record or documentation of all of these losses? Jerry had a big smile on his face. I have and I will. I guess it would be a good idea if I send you copies of everything. Most definitely. You know, Bob, I don't think we should talk about this anymore. Do you? You are right. Do you need anything else? I'm good, Bob. Get the hell out of here and take care of business. Take this financial worksheet with you. Fill it out and bring it back when you come in to sign those forms tomorrow. I got your back, buddy. It was about that time, I realized. I missed lunch. Emily had a nice little sheet waiting for me with information about Todd Mitchell. She recommended I speak to Wilma Grimm in the personnel department before doing anything else. Wilma had been with the company forever. She ran a tight ship and did a good job. She always wore a business suit and always had her hair in a tight bun. Her confidence made her a little intimidating to anyone who met her. If Emily wanted me to see her, it must be important. Good afternoon, Mr. Terrell. Have a seat. She was trying to put me at ease, but it wasn't working. It was like being in a room with a nun teacher. I was a grown man, in an important position, and I was in awe of this woman. She shut her office door. Emily gave me a rundown of what was going on. I don't contribute to office gossip, but I do deal in facts. Todd Mitchell came to me in confidence 3 years ago. I swore I would not tell anyone what was discussed at that time, but it appears I cannot keep that promise. If at any time you are offended by something I say, please get up and leave, and our discussion will be ended. If you don't like what you hear, do not get mad at me. I am just giving you the facts. Do you understand, Mr. Terrell? Yes, I understand. I think I am mature enough to accept whatever you tell me without throwing a temper tantrum. She gave a slight frown at my pathetic attempt to be humorous. About 3.5 years ago, your wife, Sandra, approached Todd Mitchell at a company function. Drinking was heavy that night, and before the evening was over, Todd and Sandra were intimate in one of the private offices. Todd was going to get married the next month. Sandra threatened to tell his fiancée unless he continued to meet her for intimacy. He was hoping that after he got married, she would leave him alone, but she didn't. She was pressuring him to be intimate with her for several months, under the threat of exposure. In desperation, he came to me for help. Of course, he had to tell me the whole story. Naturally, I could not in good conscience tell you, or anyone else. The best solution I had was to transfer Todd to another office. After his relocation to Dallas, Sandra left him alone. Todd never told his wife about the problem. Any questions? It looks like Mr. Mitchell was as big a victim in this fiasco as I was. I was contemplating some type of retribution, but that seems a little foolish now. Any recommendations, Miss Grimm? Now that you know, you have the power. I think you should just let it die. Todd Mitchell is a good employee and an asset to the company. Don't screw him up over something your wife did. Thanks for your time. I think you are right. Being pressured into being with my wife is punishment enough. As we got up, Wilma smiled. By the way, it is not Miss. I have been married for 32 years. It was hard to imagine Wilma Grimm in a more relaxed or intimate setting. However, perhaps when she lets her guard down, she reveals a completely different side of herself. All of a sudden, I found myself thinking of a dominatrix, and decided to mentally change the subject. I had more important things to worry about than Wilma's love life. Emily had rescheduled all my work, and I had a clean slate. My wife called 3 times and refused to believe I was in Baltimore, as Emily said. Emily set up an appointment for me with the company president the next day and one with the legal department for that afternoon. I asked Emily to have supper with me. She laughed and said her husband would disapprove. She suggested I ask Wilma and laughed again. It took longer in the legal department than I had anticipated, and I ended up keeping a few of the people over time. I apologized, but they all seemed to understand. It turned out to be more complicated than I thought it would be. Redeeming my retirement plan for a cash settlement was difficult. Closing out the 401k and shared savings account went smoothly, but took time. Cashing in my sick time, vacation time, and company insurance was easier than most of the things. By then, it was pretty apparent that I was leaving the company. I was hoping that it wouldn't leak back to my wife before I was done. I ended up eating supper alone. For some odd reason, I thought about Dora during the meal. I wondered if she moved into the condo. Was she still working a double shift? Although I hardly knew her, I was anxious to get back to Reno and see her. It seemed a little juvenile, and I tried to put it out of my mind. It was foolish to waste time thinking about fantasies that would never be. The next morning, I cashed in 2 whole life insurance policies and canceled 2 term policies. I was amazed at the cash value the whole life policies had grown to. I could pick up the checks the next morning. My car was covered by the company insurance, but I canceled the insurance on Sandra's Lexus. The lease was in her name, but the insurance was in mine. Before going into work, I swung by Jerry's office, dropped off the financial form, and signed a bunch of papers his secretary had ready. Emily had coffee ready when I got back to the office. "It is not my intention to rub salt into your wounds, boss, but you need to talk to Calvin Bostic down in settlements before you see Richard." Richard Ryder was the president of the company. I felt pretty sure that he already knew what I wanted to see him about. The settlements division was really down in the basement, to be exact. I don't know why everyone else got windows and sunlight and they got the dungeon. "Calvin, Emily said you wanted to talk to me." Calvin Bostic was a quiet guy who always got his work done. He was a no-nonsense type of guy, dull but efficient. He steered me over to a private corner. "I heard that things were coming to a head in your office. I am not into gossip or rumors, but I felt you needed to know something. About 6 years ago, we had a guy here in our office named Raymond Upright. He was an okay guy, married with 2 kids. He got hooked up with your wife after an office party. She kept calling him at home and here in the office. He knew he made a mistake and wanted to end it, but she wouldn't let him. She threatened to tell his wife if he tried to dump her. The dumb shit called her bluff. 2 days later, Ray's wife kicked him out. He started drinking and ended up losing his job. I don't know where he is now. Anyhow, Ray's wife threatened to tell you about your wife's affair. As I understand it, your wife gave her 10 grand to shut up. I have no proof about that last part." "Thanks, Cal. I wonder if anybody else has some good news for me." "I wasn't trying to get you upset, Mr. Terrell, but Emily said I should tell you." "You did the right thing. I appreciate it." I took the elevator straight up to the 9th floor. I was a little early for my appointment with Mr. Ryder, but he took me right in. It was short, and it was precise. The legal department, personnel department, and payroll would take care of everything for me. When the smoke settled, I was to call him personally, from wherever I was. He gave me a card with his private cell number on the back. There were no promises, no regrets, and no bullshit. Although things were wrapped up on one hand, they were kept open on the other. I gave him a simple nod and left. I hadn't spoken a word. Emily was all smiles when I got back to the office. She handed me the usual cup of coffee. I smiled back and said, "Get me a flight to Reno for Thursday morning with a 2-hour layover in Dallas." She made a motion with her head for me to look out the window. Sandra was down in the parking lot arguing with a security guard. "She's been down there over 20 minutes. They won't let her in and she won't leave. What do you want to do, boss?" "Looks like the guards have everything under control. The only problem I have is finding somebody to have supper with. I hate to eat alone." I called Jerry to see how things were going. He said he couldn't do anything until I straightened out the financial mess. I had to show him that I had no money. Right now, I was loaded. Between the checks I had, those that were coming, and the cash in the bank, I was a wealthy man. I promised I would go to Reno early and not come back until I was flat broke. Every once in a while, somebody would stick their head in the door and tell me that my wife wanted me to call her. She was having all her girlfriends call their husbands at work to find me. I hung around the office for a few more hours cleaning things up so that it would be easier for my replacement. Sandra was sitting on the hood of my car, waiting for me to come out. Emily smiled and handed me the keys to her Honda Civic. She said it was a good excuse to get her hubby to pick her up and take her out for dinner. "By the way, you are not going to do anything stupid in Dallas, are you?" "No, just tying up some loose ends. No vengeance, I promise." I drove to Allentown and had my supper at the Outback. I was back in my apartment before midnight. The next morning went fast. I signed more papers for Jerry, closed all the bank accounts, and canceled all the credit cards. I even arranged to have all the utilities turned off at the house the next week. I picked up checks at the bank, insurance company, and at work. I had no idea I was worth so much money. I got a new cell phone and canceled the ones that Sandra and I presently had. I sold my county club membership to an old friend for $23,000. My replacement was in place when I stopped in at work for the last time. He seemed like a nice fellow. He got there from Boston with a 24-hour notice. He knew it was a good move for him. Emily knew more about running the office than I did, so it was not necessary for me to train him. There were some things at the house I wish I had, but they were not important enough for me to go back for. Emily told me to keep her car, and she would have her hubby pick it up at the airport. I had to get a couple of cheap suitcases to put my stuff in at the apartment. Anything I forgot, I could buy in Reno. All of a sudden, I realized that I had done everything I could do. All my assets were now in cash. There were no stocks, no accounts, and nothing else of value except the house, which I was giving to my wife. Air Blue was very accommodating. They had some seats available and were more than willing to move my flight up. I called Jerry at home. "Hey, buddy, just wanted to let you know I am cutting out tonight. I assume you have everything you need." "I'm good, Bob. I can actually serve the papers tomorrow, but I still need that financial information as soon as possible." "You might as well go ahead and give them to her. I will start sending you some proof of financial irresponsibility as soon as I can." "Be careful, Bob. I don't want to see either one of us get into trouble. I am sure Sandra will get a big shot to help her, probably from Philly. Of course, he will be on contingency and could bail on her as soon as things start to look bad." "It's all up to you, Jerry. Do the best you can for me. Just don't pad the bill too much. I am going to be a very poor man soon. Don't forget that. One more thing. See if you can locate a guy named Raymond Upright. There is a good chance he could use a little help. Depending on the circumstances, I might be the one to do that." "Got it, Bobby. Have a good flight and keep in touch." I called the condo and left a message on the machine that I would be arriving later that night. I told her I would call, and I didn't want her to be alarmed when she heard somebody at the door. At this point, I didn't know if she would be there or not. I could hope. It was odd that I didn't even know this lady, and yet I was hoping to have a relationship of some sort with her. At this point, just having her as a friend would be fine. Her situation made her vulnerable, and I didn't want to seem like I was taking advantage of it. I arrived in Dallas early enough to have a comfortable breakfast. I was waiting in Todd Mitchell's office when he came in. I could tell he wasn't happy to see me. "Mr. Terrell, I would like to say it is nice to see you, but I would not be telling the truth. I think we both know that." "Relax, Todd. I hope you don't mind my being a little familiar. I am not here to bust your chops. I just wanted to let you know that I understand the situation you were in a while back, and that there are no hard feelings." "You could have done that on the phone," he replied. "I know, but it was on my way and I felt it was worth my time to clear the air." "I don't understand. Why would you want to do this? I am the one that screwed up. I should be apologizing to you for what happened. You didn't do a damn thing wrong. I was young and foolish and made a terrible mistake." "To this day, I am too ashamed to even tell my wife," he replied. "You were partially to blame for what happened, Todd, but I feel that most of the problem was caused by my wife. What she did created problems for you, and now for me. I am not saying that you were completely innocent, but it was not entirely your fault. I don't want you to carry around any more guilt than you have to, because my loving wife was a slut. That's very generous of you to say that. I don't know what to say or what to do in return. I reached over and handed him one of Jerry's cards. Later today, give my lawyer a call. There is a possibility that he might ask you to do something for me. It will be very discreet. He might say that he needs nothing at this time. At the most, I expect he will ask for a notarized statement confirming the affair. I promise that it will not get back to your wife. I got up and we shook hands. It felt odd, since this was one of the men who cuckolded me, but I thought it was appropriate. Todd Mitchell was a fine man and didn't deserve to have his life compromised for one indiscretion, even though it had happened several times. An hour later, I was back on my flight to Reno. I was trying to figure out what I did wrong. I worked hard to provide my wife and children with everything they could want or need. I think I did a pretty good job. It seems that while I was making sure everyone was being taken care of, I was neglecting my wife. When faced with problems like this, we all try and determine why it happened. In my case, I usually figured out that I was somehow to blame. I can accept that. But as the circle comes round, I am forced to confront Sandra's attempts to make a cuckold out of me. That cannot be accepted or condoned. If she had been discreet, I probably would have let it all slide and forever blame myself. She wasn't discreet, and I will not blame myself. The evening ended on a high note. When I landed at Reno International, I was pleasantly surprised to see Dora waiting at the baggage pickup. She had on jeans and a light blue Oxford shirt. It was the first time I saw her in anything other than a uniform. It was not my intent to have her pick me up when I called. I simply wanted her to know I was arriving. "Good evening, Dora. I wasn't expecting you. I figured since I had your car, it was the least I could do." "You're not working?" I asked. "No. I was able to cut back because of your generous offer." "Oh, I wasn't being generous. I was just trying to figure out a way that I could be alone with you," I replied. "And just what are you going to do to me when you get me alone?" "I don't know yet. I haven't planned that far ahead. Any suggestions?" I replied. As I pulled my bags off the turntable, I noticed Dora blush a little. I figured it was time to back off before I scared her away. I felt that she was baiting me a little when she asked the question, and that was a good sign. 30 minutes later, we were back at a newly decorated apartment. It was just little touches that didn't cost much, but made a difference in the ambiance of the whole place. To thank her for fixing up the apartment and picking me up at the airport, I sprung for 2 prime rib dinners. I think Dora enjoyed the wine more than the beef. "How is the divorce coming?" I asked. "Not worth a shit. I still have 3 weeks to go before I can apply. You need 6 weeks to establish residency. From what everybody said, I thought this was going to be a piece of cake. I think I would have been better off doing this from home." "Why didn't you?" I asked. Dora sat for a while. She played with her food a little and then looked up. "Getting away from Tony was more important than getting the divorce. The divorce is just a piece of paper. That won't protect me from any more beatings. I think I used the divorce idea just to justify coming out here. It didn't matter where I went. The important thing was that I went at all." What Dora said made sense to me. I guess getting divorced from Sandra seemed important at first, but now I wasn't sure. All I really wanted to do was keep her from profiting from the marriage. Unless I was planning on getting married again, it didn't matter. I had no inclinations that way. The rest of the evening was spent chatting about more mundane things like hobbies, movies, and books. Dora didn't have any children. I didn't ask why. We slept in our separate bedrooms that night. Dora had left for work before I even got up. There was fresh coffee, and that was all I needed. I was still full from last night's feast. After a quick shower, I got down to business. "Jerry, how is my favorite lawyer?" There was a sigh on the other end of the phone. "Not worth a shit, Robert. I got bad news for you. Promise you won't shoot the messenger? Oh, crap. I have only been gone 1 day. What the hell happened? Sandra has stirred up the pot. She found out about the bank accounts and other stuff. After calling the police, she got a restraining order against everything in the world. All of your accounts are frozen, even though they are empty. You can't come near her or the house. You cannot take anything from the house. You cannot contact your children, even though they are legally adults. Most of the stuff is crap, but it will take a ton of time and money if you want to straighten it all out. She contacted the Security and Exchange Commission about your 401k and retirement accounts. Somehow or other, she has the IRS looking into things. Jerry, I don't know how to tell you this, but I don't want any part of any of it. I am out. Do you understand? I was a bit overwhelmed. I guess you mean you won't be handling the divorce for me? You got it, buddy. For your information, she also hired a private detective to track you down. I wonder how she is going to pay for all of this. Don't know and I don't care. Remember, if the cops or feds ask me where you are, I will have to tell them. I am not going to risk my career for you, even though we are friends. I understand, Jerry. Cover your ass. I am going to make some adjustments at my end. I won't call you again for a while. Thanks for your understanding, buddy. I was hoping you would. See ya. Well, that put a crimp in things. The best laid plans can go to hell in a heartbeat. I had to go to plan B, and I didn't have one. My brilliant idea to fake losing all my money in the casinos was shot down. I decided not to call anyone else. Dora left me the car, which was appreciated. I don't know how she got to work. I was stuck with a small duffel full of money and checks. I had to go to 6 different casinos to cash all my checks in for chips or credit. I was afraid to go to the banks in case there had been a hold or trace put on anything. The casinos were more than happy to help out. By the end of the morning, I had everything on deposit at several places and a bag full of cash and chips. After a quick lunch, I started the withdrawals. In 2 hours, all the chips had been converted to cash and all the cash had been removed from the casino accounts. I now had a big bag of money and lots of it. So far, there had been no problems and nothing suspicious. It took me less than an hour to drive to Carson City. I rented a large safety deposit box at an obscure little bank and stashed everything except $5,000, which I kept for walking around money. I felt relieved now that everything was safe. I was looking forward to another long supper with Dora to celebrate. I knew something was fishy as soon as I entered the condo. Dora was trying her best to straighten things out that should not have been messed up in the first place. She looked up and I immediately covered part of her face. I'm sorry, Robert. It's my fault. I don't know how he found me, and I didn't know he was following me until I got into the apartment. I should have been more careful. I am really sorry. I slowly lowered her hand away from her face. Dora had a new shiner and a fat lip to go with it. A large bluish bruise covered the right side of her face. Was it Tony? I asked. She nodded her head in the affirmative. He had his 2 brothers with him. They are out looking for you now. Tony told me not to leave the condo. Where are they looking? I gave them the names of 3 casinos. The idiots don't even know what you look like. I don't think they are thinking straight. It was a no-brainer. We couldn't stay and we couldn't call the cops. We left everything, started driving west, and spent the night in a small off-road motel in Grass Valley. It only had 1 bed, but I was a gentleman. I brought some takeout back to the room and got some makeup for Dora. She tried her best to cover up the bruises, but it still looked like shit. She kept apologizing to me all night. I was relieved when she finally fell asleep. We drove into Sacramento the next day and got some clothing and personal items. I had no idea when we would be able to get back to the condo. I had the Grass Valley Motel for 2 more nights. Dora and I spent the next few days getting to know each other. There was no sex and no innuendos. I felt more comfortable with her after 3 days than I did with my wife after 24 years. When I wasn't talking with Dora, I was worrying about all the other things that were happening. I was afraid to take Dora back to the condo, in case Tony would find her. I was afraid to go back to the condo myself, in case somebody was looking for me, but I carelessly left my laptop, passport, and other personal papers there. I had a stupid idea that they were important to me, and I had to get them. Real stupid. I only knew Dora for a few days, but I decided I had to trust her. We were both in the same boat, as far as spouses were concerned. "Have you ever been to Mexico?" I asked. "No." "Are we going to go to Mexico, Robert?" "I don't know. Look, in case things don't go well, I want you to do something for me. I don't want you to get in trouble, and I want to keep you away from Tony." "Robert, you don't owe me anything. You did more than enough already." "I'll be fine," she replied. "Well, I am not sure how things are going to go for me. I have a lot of money stashed away. It's not dirty money, but I am hiding it from my wife. If something happens to me, you will have to retrieve the cash for me." "Who is after you?" "You haven't said anything about that." "Did you do something illegal?" she asked. "Look, there are several federal agencies looking for me and a private detective. I am sure the local police will be called in to help if necessary. All I am trying to do is hide some money from my wife. She is trying to make it look like I am doing something illegal." "What am I supposed to do with this money?" she asked. "I was thinking about that. Go to Guadalajara and wait for me. Use whatever money you need to get by until I get there." "How will you find me?" she asked. "Go to the Libertad market for coffee every morning. I will find you. It is very large, but I will find you." "When am I supposed to do this?" she asked. "When you figure out I am in trouble." "Why don't I just do it now?" she asked. "Be patient. I'll take you with me. I would rather take you with me than go separately." "I'd feel better if we went together. Why can't we both go now?" she asked. The conversation was starting to get redundant, so I ignored her. I didn't mean to be impolite, just anxious to move along. 2 hours later, we were over the pass and in Carson City. Dora's name was put on the access for the safety deposit box, and she got her own key. When we got back to the condo, I parked a half block away. The complex had a lower-level parking area under the units. It was open to the outside, but covered. I told Dora to wait in the car until I was sure there wouldn't be a problem. What sort of problem? I had no idea. The way things were going lately, anything could happen. And it did. I was walking through the parking area looking for anything suspicious when it happened. "Robert Terrell, turn around." He was a little man, sort of wiry. The long leather coat he wore made him look weird instead of sinister. He wasn't menacing enough to pull it off. The large black automatic in his fist was, though. "Do I know you?" A big smile crossed his face, as if he was proud to identify himself. "My name is Laszlo. Your wife sent me." "Okay. What can I do for you?" I asked. "I need your wedding ring and your wallet." "I can understand the wedding ring, but why the wallet?" "I have to make this look like a robbery," he replied. "Make what look like a robbery?" "Your wife hired me to kill you, Mr. Terrell," he answered. "I hope she paid you up front because she doesn't have any money," I replied. "What do you mean?" That was the end of the conversation. From across the parking area came 3 large Italians who did look nasty in their long leather coats. "Bobby Terrell, we want to talk to you." Tony was one loud dude. The intrusion caught Laszlo by surprise. He turned to face the 3 of them when one of them noticed the gun in his hand. All 3 of them were reaching into their coats as I dove across the concrete barrier leading to the outside of the parking area. Laszlo lost all interest in me, for the moment. As I scooted along the side of the building toward the car, I could hear shots echoing off the garage walls. I looked up in time to see Dora speeding down the street and 2 guys in suits getting out of a black SUV across the street. It was obvious that the suit guys were feds, and I assumed they were waiting for me. The firefight distracted them long enough for me to get out of the area. Dora was gone. The car was gone. There was no way in hell that I was going back to that condo. I didn't know who shot whom in the parking garage, and I didn't want to know. All I knew for sure was that there were 3 different groups after my ass, for different reasons, at the same time. I got the message. I had several options at this point. One was to catch a bus to Carson City and get my money. I decided against this idea, since I was too hot. Yeah, hot. That's a good word. I was just trying to get away from a cheating wife. What the hell happened? Since I decided to let the money cool for a while, I had to find a place to lay low. I still had over $4 grand in my pocket. That would hold me for a while. Why was my wife trying to kill me? I guess she didn't realize there was no longer any insurance money. I figured she was smarter than that. I made a big mistake. I took the bus to San Francisco. $4,000 does not go far in the city by the bay. The first $1,000 got me an SSN and an ID, so I could at least get a job. I found a room with a bath down the hall and a job waiting tables in a low-profile restaurant. After about a month, I was earning enough to support myself and getting to be a pretty good waiter. Some customers were actually requesting my tables. I had not been making the payments on my cell phone, and the service was terminated. I hadn't used it since I left Reno. It only cost me a few bucks to get a new prepaid service and about 50 minutes of airtime. I wanted to call Dora, but I had no idea where she was or how to get in touch with her. I decided to call Jerry. "Hey, buddy, it's Robert. Just thought I'd get an update from you." Bobby, good to hear from you. Things are still fouled up, but not like you would think. Where the hell are you?" "None of your damn business where I am. The last time I talked to you, I was inundated with nasty people, all wanting something. Am I still a wanted man?" "Well, most of that crap went away, especially after Sandra was arrested. As I understand it, the IRS is still looking for some type of payment on 401k assets. Other than that, most of it is good." "What do you mean Sandra was arrested?" I asked. "I thought you of all people would know about that. Ever hear of a guy named Lester Laszlo?" "Yeah, I met him once briefly about 3 months ago. He was trying to bump me off when we were interrupted by some other guys who were after me. While they were arguing about which one of them would get a piece of me, I slipped out the back door. How does he fit in?" "Sandra hired Laszlo to kill you. Laszlo got shot up pretty badly, out in Reno, and sang like a bird to the police. He claimed Sandra was going to stiff him on a $10,000 contract, so he ratted her out. Believe it or not, the cops bought it and brought her up on charges. She can't make bail, so she is waiting out her trial date in the clink." "Jerry, I would love to help her out, if it wasn't for the fact that she tried to have me killed. I think that her parents should be able to help her with bail, but I sure as hell won't." "Let me see what I can do, Bobby. Nobody seems to be that interested in you at the present time. Do you want me to start the divorce again? I think we have pretty good grounds this time." "Might as well. A divorce would be nice, but I don't care one way or the other anymore. I guess it would make things cleaner. I kept all the other paperwork. I think I can still use most of it. Oh yeah, forgot to tell you. Your kids all came home when Sandra got in trouble. They were concerned at first, but lost interest fast when the facts came out. They want you to call them and let them know you are okay." "I'll get in touch with them as soon as I can," I replied. "How did your money laundering scheme work out?" "Not worth a damn. I lost control and lost contact. I'll try and check on it next week. Jerry, sometimes the best damn plans in the world are just not good enough." "Okay. Keep in touch, buddy," he replied. "One more thing, Jerry. Did Sandra ever say why she wanted me dead?" "Not that I know of. I assumed it was for the insurance that she didn't know you canceled. I checked in with the kids and everything was fine. They felt better after they found out the tuition had been prepaid. They wanted to know what happened between Sandra and I, but I couldn't bring myself to tell them. Some things would have to wait." I borrowed a car and drove up to Carson City. The safety deposit box was empty. At least she could have left a note. I couldn't really complain because I gave her the key and access to the box. Did she go to Guadalajara? Or did she find a place where I couldn't find her? There was only one way to find out. There were several small travel agencies in my San Francisco neighborhood. Most of them specialized in group tours for compatible people, which I didn't quite fit into. I finally found a tour to my favorite Mexican city with a last-minute cancellation that I could qualify for. It was the first time in my life that I had to scrape together enough money for something. The trip wasn't that expensive, I just didn't have a lot of money. I felt comfortable because a few of the guys on the trip worked at the restaurant with me. Most of them had signed up for the side trips, but I had other plans. The first 2 days turned out to be a big disappointment. The Libertad market was bigger than I had imagined. I see now that it was a poor choice on my part. I hated to think that maybe Dora had decided to take my money and go someplace a little more exotic. Maybe she was in Bangkok or Tahiti. Lord knows there was enough money in that safety deposit box to live just about any place she wanted to. I didn't know if I should sit and wait for her to walk by or if I should walk around and look for her. I ended up doing both. By the third day, it was getting dull. "It's about time, Robert. Where the hell have you been?" I turned and saw Dora standing with her hands on her hips. She had on a wide-brimmed straw hat with a red band around it. "Say something, damn it! I've been going nuts here, not knowing if you were even alive or not." I didn't say anything. I walked over and kissed her for the first time. I don't know why I hadn't done it before, but I was glad I did it now. "That's a pretty pathetic explanation. Maybe you better try it again." The second kiss was accompanied with a big hug as I swung her around off the ground. "Dora, I missed you so bad. You still have to tell me where you were for the last month, but I can wait till later. Let's go home and have some lunch." We walked through the market hand in hand. I felt happy and content for the first time in a while. "Robert, don't get mad at me, but I spent some of your money. I put most of it in the bank, but I needed a place to live, so I bought us a house. I was hoping you wouldn't mind because you had an awful lot of money in that bank," she answered. "It was a beautiful hacienda in a beautiful city, and I was with a wonderful woman. I like it when a plan comes together. Sandra's parents were able to raise her bail money and pay for her lawyers. Jerry had no trouble getting her signature on the divorce papers. She ended up getting 5 to 8 years for trying to have me killed. Never did find out why. Todd Mitchell gave Jerry a deposition, but Jerry never had to use it. Jerry was able to find Ray upright. He was sober, but not doing well. When Jerry asked him what he could do to help, Ray said he would like to have a hot dog pushcart. I got to feel better for $2,400. I settled my beef with the IRS for $4,000. Laszlo was in jail in Nevada with Dora's husband and brothers. We don't know how long they will be there. I was now free to return home. My old job with a promotion was waiting for me. The law was no longer looking for me. As soon as Dora's Mexican divorce is final, we plan to get married. The kids will be coming down for the wedding during spring break. The house in Guadalajara is beautiful, but we are pretty certain we will not stay there full time. Dora wants to keep it as a vacation home. Emily is anxious for me to return to work, especially at the new position. It is a promotion for both of us. Dora is willing to go anywhere, as long as we stay together. She wants me to take her to meet Sandra. That should be interesting. My plans did not work out as I expected, but who am I to complain? And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.